All right, let's get started. Welcome to the Accern and Morningstar webinar on using AI to discover investment insights from equity research. So our presenters today are Eric Dziewiontkoski and Riyaz Nakhooda. Eric is the Director of Research Distribution Products at Morningstar. He oversees Morningstar's research licensing business globally and works with clients who license Morningstar's analysts and quantitative research. He has been with Morningstar since 2013 and is based in Chicago. He holds a bachelor's in economics from the University of Illinois and an MBA from DePaul University. Riyaz is a VP of Strategic Partnerships at Accern. Accern offers a no-code platform designed to enable data teams within financial services to build AI solutions that unlock insights from their structured and unstructured data to make smarter risk and investment decisions. Prior to Accern, Riyaz worked as an offering manager with IBM Watson and ran the quantitative sales team for S&P and Algorithmics, focused on investment and risk management for buy-side and sell-side financial institutions. So the objectives of the webinar today are to discover how to build NLP research models using the Accern no-code AI platform, and to discover how NLP models can be applied to Morningstar's equity research to quickly identify equity performance drivers. Throughout the webinar, if you have any questions, feel free to add them into the Q&A chat box and we will answer them during our Q&A at the end. And with that, I will now turn it over to Eric.
Great, thank you, Grace, for the introduction, and thank you to Accern for having me today. I'm excited to speak to everyone about Morningstar's equity research that's available within the Accern platform. As Grace indicated, my name is Eric Dziewiontkoski, and again, I'm the Director of Research Distribution Products at Morningstar. For those of you that don't know or are not familiar with Morningstar, Morningstar is a global leader in investment research. We were founded in 1984 to provide independent research to help investors make better financial decisions. Fast forward 35 plus years, and we continue to help investors as a global research provider of independent research across many universes and geographies. Our mission is simple: it's to empower investor success. And our research core values help us live up to that mission every single day. Our opinions are independent, our actions are transparent, and we invest for the long term. Go to the next slide, Riyaz. So Morningstar is one of the largest equity analyst teams with over 120 analysts based around the globe. We have analysts in Chicago, Amsterdam, Singapore, Tokyo, Hong Kong, and Sydney. The team of analysts covers more than 1,500 companies, and we use a single consistent methodology. As you can see here, our coverage spans across regions, market caps, as well as sectors. And as I mentioned with the methodology, our analysts apply a consistent methodology regardless of where the company is located, its market cap, or the industry it operates in. This is unique as it allows our analysts to collaborate across geographies and industries to provide more in-depth analysis and better help investors. And I thought I'd touch briefly on our methodology so you have a better understanding of what you can expect within the research. And in fact, we actually enhanced our methodology at the end of 2020 in a small but important way to more formally incorporate ESG risks into our analysis. And I'll touch on this in a bit more in just a bit. But first, Morningstar, if you can go back, actually, yes. Morningstar is valuation driven. We believe that a company's intrinsic worth results from the future cash flows it can generate. And as part of our fundamental analysis, our analysts determine if a firm has an economic moat. Economic moat plays a vital role in our assessment if a firm has a long-term investment potential and is key in the calculation of our fair value estimate. We define economic moats as a structural feature that allows firms to sustain excess profits over the long term, or better known as competitive advantages. Without a moat, a firm is more susceptible to competition. Think of a moat around a castle. Without one, its defenses could be weak and its enemies could invade. The wider the moat, the harder it is for those enemies to penetrate. Firms with a narrow moat are those that we feel are likely to achieve excess returns for the next 10 years. And wide moat companies are those that will have excess profits for at least 10 years and more likely to remain for at least 20 years. After determining the moat rating, our analysts prepare a detailed projection of the company's future cash flows based on their analysis and use a proprietary discounted cash flow model to arrive at their fair value estimate for the firm. As part of their analysis, they also consider at least 2 scenarios in addition to their base case, both a bull and a bear. The distance between these 2 scenarios helps determine the uncertainty rating, or the margin of safety that is required before an analyst recommends a stock. The higher the uncertainty, the wider the margin of safety. By comparing the fair value estimate of a stock with the current market price and adjusted for uncertainty, we then calculate the Morningstar rating for stocks each day after market close. The rating identifies stocks trading at a discount or premium to their intrinsic worth or fair value estimate. Go to the next slide, please, Anthony. So our analysts then communicate their opinions and analysis within our analyst report, and primarily across 8 sections: the business strategy and outlook, the bull say, bear say, economic moat, fair value and profit drivers, risk and uncertainty, the financial strength, capital allocation, and finally their analyst notes. We'll go ahead and walk through briefly what you can expect to see within each of these sections when you're reading a Morningstar research report or adding it into a model. First is the business strategy and outlook. I like to think of this section as the analyst's overall thesis of the firm and that firm's strategy. What is it this firm does? Where is the firm headed? Is their strategy a hindrance or an enabler? And what's their competitive position within the industry? And are they well positioned? The next is the bull say and bear say. Here, the analyst is going to highlight those issues that would lead them to boost or dampen their base case. I like to think of these as the tailwinds and headwinds, usually a few sentences each and kind of nice bullet points to get their point across. The next section is economic moat. As I touched on earlier, economic moat is critical to our analysis and a key driver to our methodology. In this section, the analyst is going to discuss if a company has competitive advantages and if they're sustainable. Morningstar has identified 5 sources of an economic moat. First is intangible assets. For an example would be Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola is simply sugar water, but the brand is that intangible asset. Next is switching costs. Switching from one provider to another can not only have financial costs, but other risks to the business. Think of Workday having an economic moat of switching costs, of having to switch to another software. Next is network effect. For each additional user, it increases the firm's value. MasterCard is a great example, not only with each additional user of the card, but each additional merchant that accepts it, it gains in value. Cost advantages is our fourth. And think of this, Novo Nordisk, for example. Entering the insulin market would require a significant upfront cost for a new entrant, especially for a firm that controls over 25% of the market. And then last is efficient scale. We like to think of railroads having this moat source. It simply doesn't make economic sense for a firm to build another railroad next to existing tracks. So the analyst will not only discuss these moat sources, and not all firms will have a moat. And if a firm does, it may have multiple. And so the analyst will really discuss each of these moat sources and whether it's trending in a positive or negative fashion. The analyst is also going to look and determine if the firm is facing a threat of value destruction. They'll look at risk related to ESG, industry disposition, or other factors that could impact the business. The next section is the fair value and profit drivers. In this section, the analyst is going to discuss the key drivers that led them to their fair value estimate, as well as any assumptions that they made. If there are any ESG issues with over 50% probability of materializing, the analyst will make sure that they're discussing these here. In the risk and uncertainty section, the analyst is going to discuss their uncertainty rating and their rationale for that rating. What are the risks within their forecasts? What material ESG issues could the company face? In the financial strength section, the analyst is going to discuss the firm's overall financial health, what its capital structure looks like, and talk about its balance sheet and cash flows. Capital allocation was one of the other areas where we enhanced our methodology at the end of last year. This was formerly known as a stewardship rating, but our capital allocation rating represents our assessment of the quality of management's capital allocation with an emphasis on the firm's balance sheet, its investments, and shareholder distributions. Analysts are judging this from an equity shareholder's perspective, and they assign either a standard, poor, or exemplary rating. And then the last section is going to be the analyst notes. Then the analyst notes, the analyst has the flexibility to provide additional perspectives or opinions to address short or near-term issues. And these are updated likely more frequently than other sections of the report, at least at a minimum after each earnings announcement, but as frequently as events require. For example, Amazon the other day announced their acquisition of MGM, which prompted an analyst note. So overall, our analysts are constantly monitoring their companies under their coverage. They're updating their models and they're updating their analysis. As you can see here, we've published a large amount of content and research in 2020. In fact, there's over 121 million characters of research that we published last year, and over 32 million of characters so far this year. And I think we can all agree that it would take an average human days, if not weeks or months, to read and process this much research, let alone distill insights that are relevant to that individual need. And this is where Accern can help. And now I'll turn it over to Riyaz to help explain how. So Riyaz, over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Eric, for providing the a background in terms of the content and what we can expect to get from each section within the Morningstar equity research. So before we go into how can we apply natural language processing to help to extract information from there to enhance the research process, we just want to conduct a quick poll to get a sense of who's currently using Morningstar equity research. So I'm going to launch the poll, and everyone should see the poll appear on their screen. And if you guys can please, select one of the. Oh, sorry, this is a different poll, but I'll reveal the results for this one at the end. But please do answer this one, and we'll as well. Okay, we'll give it a few more seconds here. Okay, and okay, great. I think we have. I'll come back to the results of this question towards the end of the presentation. But thank you for providing that. I'm going to launch another poll right now just to align to the question here. So just give me 1 second. And okay, so if you can please also respond to this one as well. Okay, great. So the results are in. So there's about 33% of those who responded who are currently using Morningstar equity research, and the remainder, 66%, currently are not using it. So that's great to know. And let me share with you how Accern is working with Morningstar to enhance the research process. So as Eric mentioned, some of the current challenges with equity research in general is the amount of time spent analyzing the research. So there's millions of characters, thousands of documents, and going through that unstructured text to come up with an informed investment decision can take hours. And that can also lead to information being missed. So as humans are prone to errors, and especially when we're going through large quantities of data. And the other sort of challenge is it's also difficult to identify trends. So when we're looking through PDF reports and we're looking through various different documents and content, it's often difficult to discover trends across these documents without some type of assistance. So this is where the Accern AI platform can help to allow customers to build out models to first identify thematic drivers of performance around specific companies. We can take a look at build models that allow us to look at changes in outlook over time. Also capture co-relationships between companies. So oftentimes you're, within one research report, it may be discussing, your target company of interest, and being able to surface and capture that information is, relatively important. And then also giving early warning indicators of potential risks that you may have to, that may prompt some investment or risk decision. And so we're going to build these models and apply this to the equity research reports, and share with you how you can, gain some insights from that. So what are the sort of key ingredients or components we need to think about when we're building out a natural language processing model? So the first part is content. So you want to be using high quality content, and Morningstar provides that content for investment research. The second piece of building out an NLP model is around the taxonomy. So when we're looking for specific companies, we want to be able to capture a 360 view around that company, which means that we want to be able to track mentions of leadership, products, subsidiaries, so that our precision when we're identifying these passages of text is very high. We also need a way to easily expand these models. So to build new topics, to build new themes that we want to identify within the content. And then finally, when on the analytics side, we need models which understand how to interpret passages in the context of an investment or risk decisioning. And we need to be able to tie those topics back to the entities that we're interested in, or in this case, companies, and understand the impacts around them. So to drill into this a little bit further with an example, imagine here there's a passage of text that the NLP model has identified within a research report. So the system is going to first figure out what are the most important passages within this paragraph, what issues have been identified. So in this case, if we look at price fixing of debit card charges, that would be the issue, and that might link back to an antitrust behavior. What is the sentiment around that? So the sentiment around that may determine it based off the context, may determine it to be negative. And then what companies are tied back to that particular issue that we've identified. And in this case, we can see Visa and MasterCard. So that's at a high level, that's the process that the NLP model will go through as it looks at all the research reports. So let's take a look at how we can build out this model within the Accern platform. And so there's a few steps. One of the core steps is selecting your data or content source. We then build a model that's able to do entity recognition, event detection, categorize signals, content parsing, and then we get our analytics at the end, such as sentiment, extractions of certain themes, which we can then use within our dashboards or applications to perform more deeper analysis. And as we go through the example here, we'll put the end application in the context of an investment advisor or PM or a research analyst, where we're going to try to quickly understand what are the key thematic issues over a number of documents. We'll do a deep dive into understanding what themes are what are the passages and themes that are driving some of these thematic findings. We can look at trends across time and also identify things that are either positively impacting the company and the outlook and negatively impacting it. So with that in mind, let's start off by jumping into the Accern application. And I'll walk you through how you can build out a research model on Morningstar data using our no-code platform. So the first step here is really to build out a use case and give that use case a name. So I've created a sample one here called Investment Research Insights. And as I select that, the first step is to select my content sources. So what data, what content do I want to apply to the NLP model? And in this case, we have integrated in Morningstar data. Just to give you a bit more detail around that, we have each section that Eric went through earlier in the presentation. That is a discrete data set that can be applied or used within the NLP model. So if you just want to look at signals within the economic moat or within the analyst notes, you can select each of those content sets discretely, or you can bring it all together to bring in all those sections into the one content store. So I've turned on my Morningstar Equity Research as my content. And the next step here is really about selecting the taxonomy. So this is what companies am I looking to extract from the documents, and then what themes am I looking to extract on those companies. So if you think back to that previous example around Visa, MasterCard, and price fixing of debit cards, Visa, MasterCard are the entities. The types of themes that we're looking for are around anti-competitive behavior, etc. So this is really my first step. And in this case, let's turn on, maybe all our, we can turn on, all the U.S. equities, all the international companies as well. So we get a broad breadth of coverage here. So again, just hitting home on the point that each of the companies within these particular sectors, we're covering a 360 view. So for 3M, we're looking at posted notes, leadership, subsidiaries of that company that we might identify within the research. The next step is really selecting the themes. So the themes tie back to what type of information are we looking to extract on these particular companies. Now, out of box, Accern has a number of different types of themes. We have themes that are focused on the company itself, around the financials. We have themes that are focused, on ESG specifically. We have macro level themes, credit related themes. So as a user, you can select the type based off your analysis, based off what you're trying to understand around the particular companies or sectors. You can select the type of themes that you want the NLP model to look for. So let's turn them all on for this example. And just another point around this is that for each theme, so if I'm looking at bankruptcy themes, right, the Accern model is built to understand how each of these topics are being discussed within natural language content. So for bankruptcy liquidation, we have there's a model that's been trained to understand how do people discuss this type of topic, so that when so it can pick that up when it sees those type of passages or passages that are relevant. The other area you can do that users can configure is adding additional entities and additional themes that may not be currently within the out-of-box set. So through our taxonomy builder, you can add additional companies very quickly. You can also add additional themes that you may want to track, and you can build these up using our keyword suggestion module, which uses a topic modeler behind the scenes to start to provide suggestions. So let's say I want to create a theme around pollution. And so I'm looking for companies who are, who have some exposure to pollution, either in a positive or negative way. So I can start to seed a couple keywords. And what happens here is the system is going through a corpus of data, and it's looking for clusters of words and concepts that are coming up around pollution and providing back suggestions. So as I start to add additional suggestions, this model that's running behind the scenes will also update its recommendations and start to provide me other key phrases and bigrams and trigrams that I can use to build out my my new taxonomy around this theme. You can also add in and expand this using Lucian queries and regular expressions if you're more of a advanced user. So now what have I done so far? So I've selected my content, which is my Morningstar equity research. I've selected a set of companies and themes that I want to extract from that content. The next step is applying the NLP models. And there's various different models and analytics that we can bring back. So one is around the document itself. So we're bringing back some information around the title, the source, obviously, in this case, Morningstar. An interesting one is around clustering. So oftentimes you may find that there's a document that comes out, but it's relatively the same as another similar document. So there's an algorithm that runs behind the scenes to cluster these type of documents together to make it easier to search and identify critical information. We also have entity extraction. So this is identifying those companies, or whether it's a product, a leadership, identifying that within the passage of text, bringing back what was identified, also providing meta tagging around that, so you can then also combine this information with other more downstream information you may have. So using Bloomberg Open Figgies tickers, once we get these signals, you can also tie it back to other market data and sources you have. On the theme side, we are extracting, what theme was identified. Was it a bankruptcy event? And then was it at a liquidation event? And then under that, what type of hits? What were the key topics that were being discussed within that event? Sentiment is another model that where we're looking at the market perception, or the perception around the full document, around the company that was identified, around the event that was identified, and around the combination or the pair of both the event and the entity. And then finally, the last sort of algorithm that we run is around relevancy. So so if you think of a document that comes in, it may mention several different companies in there. It may be about Apple. The research report might be about Apple, but it also mentions Google and other companies within that document. But the relevancy algorithm will score from 0 to 100, giving the most relevancy being 100 to the company that is most talked about and the main subject of the document. And that also goes with the events. So within a document, you may discover a bankruptcy event, a legal action, but really it's about the legal actions of the company. So the event relevancy can be used to really allow you to filter and the information and just focus on the relevant events. So let's select all of these. And the final step is the delivery. So this is now, where do I want the information that this model that I've built to start to stream in its analytics, so I can then use it and consume it in my downstream business workflows. So we have several options. You can bring it into dashboards directly. You can bring this back into storage areas or databases, and to be used further downstream. So this four sort of steps is a very quick way to build out very complex NLP models that can identify high value information within your content. And before I share with you some of the results of this, I just want to highlight a few other areas within the platform that that our customers are using. So one is around sentiment tuning. So we have our base models, which are trained on financial services and and investment and risk sort of sentiment, but you can also calibrate beyond our model. So by adding in snippets of text, providing some feedback to the model, it'll calibrate. So you can do simplified labeling, which is identifying that passage as very negative, neutral, positive, etc. Or you can score it between negative 100, 0 being neutral, 100. So there's ways to create and update that model to make it more specific to your views as well. Okay, so let's take a look now that we've deployed this model, and let's take a look at how we can use the output for some analysis. So what I've done is I've pushed the output into a BigQuery into BigQuery, and then I've applied on top of that Data Studio, which is a Google BI tool to analyze the data. And again, Accern is agnostic to where you consume the data, but this this is an example of how you can look at some of the information. So at the top here, we have the companies that that have been run through this analysis. So we can see the various lists of companies here, and it allows we can quickly filter on a specific company that we are interested in diving down deeper into the research. We can also look at things at a sector level. So given all the meta tagging that we've done in the previous stage, we now can aggregate information at various different sector level aggregates. You can look at things on the country level, on a region level as well. So these are sort of your selection parameters in terms of how do you want to target your initial analysis. And then on the parameterization piece, you can also use the sentiment. You can use sentiment to look at very positive market events or very negative events. So I'll just leave the sentiment between negative 100 and 100 for now. And let's focus in on a specific company. So let's pick Airbus as Airbus, here we go. So I'm going to focus in on Airbus as the company. So what we see here is over this analysis period, there was 246 signals. So what that means is that we've identified, based off the events that we've selected, we've identified passages of text which mention Airbus or a subsidiary or leadership around that, and one of the events that we were looking for, which I think we're about 200 in that list, that out of box that I shared with you. And what we see here is that these passages were identified in several different research reports. So, clearly in the Airbus research reports, you would expect that that's where you'd find most of the mentions of Airbus and some type of signal, but we also see that a lot within other types of within other company reports as well. So within Singapore Airlines, we're talking, there's mentions around Airbus and a particular event and so forth. So there's about 9 different company reports where we see that information. And so that gives us some clues as to where, perhaps where Airbus is, maybe more relevant or being co-mentioned with other types of companies. Now I can drill into any one of these particular reports, but I'll keep it at the aggregate for now, and then we can dive down a little bit deeper. And so now when we're looking at the themes, what are the types of themes that are being discovered within these documents? So what we're seeing here are the themes that we have. So rumors, product development, pricing action, partnerships, laws and regulations, legal action. So these are the themes, and these are the sections of the Morningstar research report. So economic moat, the analyst notes. So we can start to understand where are these signals now being generated and what sections are are being driven. So here, clearly we see on the business actions, it looks like that the signals here are being discovered across a number of different sections within the Morningstar research report, along with finance activities as well. And ESG is another one, criminal action. So there's a number of different themes that we have here. We can drill into that a bit further to understand the sentiment around some of these themes that we've identified. And so market performance, you can see, has a very negative theme. It was mentioned in around 6 times within the different sections of the reports. Business concerns as well. And so we'll start to get some clues here as to what are some of the the negative market drivers, or at least from a market perception standpoint, around Airbus, right? And going further into that, so these are the sentiment around the top level themes. Going further into that, we're going to the sub themes and looking at, there's credit. If we're looking at financing activities, the credit, some mentions around credit were pretty negative. Defaults, disagreements, debts, etc. We can start to also look at how certain themes, or how the sentiment around the company has been trending across time. So if we and this can give us an indication of where there might be, where there might be areas of concern, or where there might be areas of opportunity as well. We can also look at the story volume. So clearly, like around between October and November, there were numerous mentions of Airbus within different documents that we want. And then finally, we can drill down into the actual individual documents to understand what was being mentioned and in relation to Airbus, right? So although this was in a Singapore Airlines research report, the passage of text here, if we go through, it has mentions Airbus within the context of the event, and we can get the perception. So any one of these we can drill down to. So let's drill into one example here of around business concerns. See if we can go a bit deeper here. So the report updates now to focus in on the business concerns section, and what we see here is that under business concerns, there were 4 subtopics. There were disagreements, failures, mistakes, and scandals that had been identified. And we can go down further into understanding what sections those came from, and the passages of text that support that the decision by the NLP model. And so this really helps the analyst to accelerate their workflow in terms of identifying critical themes and topics within the full set of Morningstar research. So with that in mind, I'll just touch on one more slide, and then I think we can open up to any Q&A questions that people may have. So some of the extensions to this, so I shared with you how we can take some of that output from the NLP model, start to use that to enhance the research process. Some other areas that our customers are using the output of the models for are to build out additional predictive models or investment indicators. So using machine learning and using our no-code platform that allows you to bring in data, structured data, apply to it a machine learning model, evaluate it, test it, and deploy it. They're looking to deploy models that can predict stock returns or economic performance indicators and key KPIs on companies, such as how does same-store sales change, or model other types of early warnings on risk. And we're releasing this module at the end of June. So we have some early customers using it right now to build out machine learning models and on the platform using Morningstar data and other data as well. So with that, I'd like to thank everyone for their time, and we'll open it up to Q&A. Oh, sorry. Just before we get there, let me just give you the results of the poll here, because I know we conducted this a bit earlier. So are you currently using AI and NLP within your investment and research process? So 31% of the participants said yes. 20% said we're considering it. There was 20% which said no, and 19% said we are currently in the process of implementing AI and NLP. So that's great to hear that that the majority of the audience is somewhere on their NLP AI process. Hopefully, we shared some insights as to how you can potentially accelerate that with Accern and Morningstar data. So with that, I'll open it up to Q&A. And Grace, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thanks, Riyaz and Eric. All right, so we have a few questions in, and if you have any questions throughout the Q&A, please feel free to add them in the Q&A box. So our first question is from Stuart. Do you have to add the additional suggested variations manually, or is there a way to have it automatically add similar phrases or topics?
Yeah, so yeah, Stuart, thank you for the question. So what you need at a minimum is a few seeded keywords around the topic, and then the system can, each of the phrases that come back are weighted. They have a weight around them. We can automatically bring those in for you based off a certain threshold of weighting, or we give the option for you to bring that in, to select them manually as well. So there's two ways to do that. There's an automated way, and then there's the way where you can work with the analyst or through the UI. Yeah.
All right, and the next question, we have an anonymous question. Are you able to combine Morningstar data along with your own data to use the model on?
Yes, absolutely. So we can combine Morningstar data. You can combine Morningstar data with any content within our data store. So that includes FactSet transcripts, news. So we have Dow Jones Institutional News Wires, our own public news and blog feed, Acquire Media news, SEC filings, and then you can also bring in your own content as well. If you have internal research documents, those can be brought into the system as well, and all linked together within one model.
All right, and another anonymous question. Are there any specific types of thematic trends that the tool is particularly good at extracting?
Yeah, so ESG is one that we've spent a lot of time calibrating the model for, and we have a number of customers using us for extracting ESG insights across their natural language content sets. Around credit risk, so understanding early warnings of potential credit impacts, or what might indicate a credit migration. On the equity side as well, looking at things like company financials, legal actions, business concerns, those natures. So the model, just to give you a bit of background for those of you maybe not familiar with Accern, Accern's been around since 2014. We really started off catering to the quantitative hedge fund space, and we've expanded into institutional asset management, wealth management, banking, insurance. But as part of that process, the NLP model has really been calibrated using the feedback and input from our customers who are willing to participate in that, to really strengthen the model. So in terms of understanding investment and risk concepts and how to quantify them and extract them, that's where we're really strong.
All right, and another anonymous. What type of NLP models can be created using your data, and how accurate are the insights?
Yeah, so the NLP model, so in general, the models will extract entities. So it does NER, entity extraction. It does topic or theme extraction, calculates out sentiment along various different dimensions, and calculates out relevancy of certain topics within documents. Those are the core analytics that come out of the NLP model. In terms of precision and accuracy, because Accern is very vertically focused on investment risk management, the models have a very high precision and recall rate, and we've done benchmarking, and we can share links to the white papers that have been written around comparing the Accern model versus other NLP models in terms of how we are able to identify, extract, and quantify insights around investment and risk management.
All right, and the next question, what type of expertise or background would you suggest in order to use this tool effectively?
Right, yeah, that's a great question. So the tool, as you can maybe grasp from the demonstration of it, is meant to allow collaboration with citizen data scientists, technical business analysts, to be able to provide input, feedback into how to build out the model and calibrate it. So in terms of your skill set, you don't have to know how to code. You can really build out these models using that shopping cart click-through workflow that was shared with you earlier.
All right, and that's it for the questions. Does anyone else have any other questions? You can add them into the Q&A. Oh, there's one more. So what does the integration process look like to use this platform?
Right, yeah. So the platform itself can be deployed as a SaaS model. So we have a SaaS version of it where you just subscribe and you get access to the pre-built use cases and to the content sets, and you can then build out those models and integrate them into your downstream systems. We can also deploy onto GCP, AWS, Azure, as the whole system is containerized. And so if there's content that you maybe not be comfortable with passing to a SaaS deployment, you can deploy the whole system on your own on-premise onto your virtual private cloud as well. And then in terms of and then just to expand a little bit on the integration pieces, in terms of the data sources, so Morningstar alongside with all the other Dow Jones and FactSet and all our other content providers, fully integrated in. Accern has done a lot of the data engineering pieces on that to make sure the sources and content is ready for use for NLP models. Additionally, if you have content in like S3 or Snowflake or other areas, those can be brought in. So that's on the data ingestion side. And then on the output of the model, when we've built a model and we're now streaming out analytics, those can be, if you're a Snowflake user, S3 user, Azure, BigQuery, it can all get streamed into your destination point of choice.
All right. Looks like those are all the questions that we have. So I guess we will end a little bit early. Oh, looks like we have one more actually that came in from Enzo. How often are the AI models updated with changes in world events?
Right. So we update the models probably. Well, so it's probably once a quarter. There's a large sort of update. Once every month, the models are recalibrated slightly based off some feedback. So there's a monthly update, and then there's a larger one towards every quarter, end of every quarter.
All right, and I'll just give another minute for anyone else who has any questions that they'd like to submit. Are the AI models supervisioned?
Is it a supervised learning process or an unsupervised? So the AI models, it's a semi-supervised process. So we, the models are so we use the same process that a customer would go through to build out new taxonomies and then also maybe train and calibrate sentiment and relevancy through the platform. We use our own tool to do that when we're creating our standard topics as well. So that process works through first using an LDA model to come up with the types of and understanding the types of topics and that are being types of phrases and topics that are being discussed around specific themes. Once we understand that, we then pull out certain passages and then start to train the model in terms of understanding sentiment and things like that. Yeah.
All right, and if there aren't any other questions, then I think we can wrap up a little bit early. Yeah, thanks to everyone who attended the webinar, and thanks to Riyaz and Eric for presenting.